It's a module about Standard 7 of NASPAA accreditation standards. This is for site visitor training. Now, why is Standard 7 here? Why is there a standard about this? There's really three reasons that this standard exists, and that a site visitor you should have in the back of your mind as you're pursuing your job. But to some extent, and one of the first reasons for it was that this is essentially a truth in advertising standard. It's basically saying, look, a program that has its mission and objectives and its public service values and all of the infrastructure that it needs. And it's recruiting students and it's recruiting faculty and it's maybe doing something to help get students find employment and so on. Well, how is it accurate in what it's saying about itself? Is it presenting itself truthfully? It's basically saying a well-run program ought to be truthful about its situation and what's going on and key parameters of its operation. Now, that leads to the second reason, which is that transparency is essentially a key public service value that NASPAA as an organization believes in and says all programs should be as transparent as they possibly can. Can't always say everything for a variety of reasons, legal and otherwise, but the best you can, you should be transparent about what you have to say and what you're doing and the condition of your program and so on. And the third reason is because the Council on Higher Education Accreditation, which is a body that basically authorizes organizations like NASPAA to accredit other organizations, CHIA as it's called, CHIA as an association requires all accrediting bodies like NASPAA to have a standard like this in its accreditation standards. So it seems like a fairly straightforward standard, and in many ways it is. Just say what you're doing and be as transparent as you can. But it's an important one for all of these reasons. So what's the standard say? Basically says the program is going to provide the appropriate and current information about all of these other aspects of the standards, what its mission is, its accomplishments, policies and practices, and procedures and so on, including how well its students are learning. And why is it doing that? Because it has all of these people who have a stake in the program, and you want to provide them with enough information to make the decisions they have to make. Who are the stakeholders? Well, again, the self-study report is going to lay out who the program thinks its key stakeholders are, but from a sort of general perspective, every program has this set of people who care about its success, certainly the current and potential students, the faculty who may be there now or that might be recruited to come to the program, the people who are going to employ the graduates, as well as university administrators, alumni, and of course accrediting agencies. They all have a stake in what the program is doing. So the program in its self-study report is going to try and lay out what it's communicated to all of these different stakeholders. If COPRA doesn't see everything lining up correctly, it may raise a question in its interim report to the program, and the program might be able to respond in writing to that in its response to the interim report, but some questions may remain. And again, as a site visitor, your job as the eyes and ears of COPRA is to sort of, in effect, check what the program is saying in its site visit report, answer the questions that COPRA provides. And these are typically not going to be very significant or very difficult kinds of things, but there are types of information that not all programs will report, and you want to know why, and are they on target to get it reported. Lots of programs have to deal with departmental, college, university restrictions on what's presented, how, on websites and in print documents, and all the different form that information is laid out. So programs are all different in grappling with those things. The site visit team is basically responsible for just reporting what it finds in that regard. What kinds of things should it be looking for? Well, these are things that NASPAA in general, COPRA in particular, and even CHIA says, look, this is the kind of information that ought to be publicly available. And you would hope in the self-study report that the program has made that clear, and that if it isn't, COPRA will pick up on it. But this is the kind of information, generally descriptive information about the degree, so that faculty would know what they're going to be expected to teach in general, the philosophy of the program, its mission, what it's trying to accomplish, and the students will know what kind of program they're getting into, and their likelihood of finding internships if the program has internship programs. What's the completion rate in what period of time? All these aspects of admissions and the size of the faculty, the cost of the degree. If you look at this list, it's basically designed to sort of say, well, we want to help key stakeholders make important decisions. So this kind of information should be public. And as a site visit team, you read the self-study report, you look at what COPRA has said, you'd think this is kind of straightforward, but it's interesting when you actually get on the site visit team that you can find some of this information is supposed to be somewhere on a website and it's not on a website, or it's 6 clicks through a website, so that if you actually were a student looking for admission criteria, you might find it really difficult. The program could say we have the admission criteria on our website, but COPRA or you as a site visitor might actually test out some of this stuff and discover it's really hard to get to some of this information. Is that a bad thing? Does that mean the program's not in compliance with the standard? Not necessarily. It's not your judgment to make whether it's in compliance, but you can report your experience. You're looking for ways to suggest improvements to a program. Too, it's something that at the end of the site visit, you might say, we looked at a couple of these things, and we'd recommend you're trying to do some improvements in this area. You're just reporting to COPRA sort of what you have found. So all of this goes to this issue of transparency and accountability. You want to look at that website. You want to see that all of those issues are addressed there, and if they're in print materials, in those print materials. And again, a matter of degree. How easy is it to get to? And working with the liaison from COPRA, if there are problems that come up with that, you'll be able to raise them on site and see how the program is going about delivering them, and how the program is working with its university and its IT departments to address the issues. You can follow up on all of that. If you see a problem, you can report the problem, but dig a little further and say, how's the problem being addressed? And if you can report, well, here's how it's going to be addressed, and they expect it to be resolved within 90 days or 180 days, whatever it is, well, then you've told COPRA, okay, here's the situation, here's what they're doing about it, and COPRA can then choose to follow up in the annual report review from the program, subsequently holding the program accountable and say, well, you told us this was going to be fixed at a certain time. Is it fixed? So really what COPRA is looking for in Standard 7 is in almost a checklist sense from the earlier slide. Does the program have the information that's required for the key decision makers to make the decisions that they're going to make? You can never provide, all these decision makers need different kinds of information, so that's why there's multiple kinds of things that you put up there. But if you put it on a website, or even if people are still using print documents, well, how often are these things updated? Again, this relates back to other standards too. It takes resources, time, energy, and budget to maintain materials, even to maintain websites. And so that goes, if you find material here that's really badly outdated, that concentrations or areas of emphasis are being offered according to some print or website document, but in fact you don't see courses being offered in that area, or no one has graduated with that major or area of concentration in 4 or 5 years, that's a sign potentially of a resource constraint problem. So even investigating Standard 7 on publishing information about itself, you can get some insight about what's happening with some of the other kinds of other standards. You want to see everything being up to date. And then, of course, COPRA is going to do its best to judge whether the information that's in the self-study report is valid, but and match what's on the program's website. I think COPRA often will rely on the site visit team to follow up on that and be like another set of eyes and ears and brains looking at the website more closely and making sure that the information COPRA wants to know about Standard 7 is the program being transparent and can it be held accountable for doing what it says it's trying to do in its mission? Students learning what they're supposed to learn, and can the key decision makers, do they have the information they need to make decisions?
NASPAA would like to thank Steve Mazer of Willamette University for providing the training on Standard 7.